Oh my God. Hey, my sweet chinchillas. Good Wednesday morning. It's good to see you. Welcome to the sweat. Jessie Coffield, Emerson Lotzia here. We have a lot on tap today. We're going to talk about some DFS stuff, some sports betting stuff around the NFL. The Ryder Cup starts on Friday, so we're going to bring in our gorgeous golf gurus there. And also, why not take a little trip around the diamond? But we do have an important announcement to make for you right now because I know you want to win $1 million.
Yeah, I was going to say, here's how to win
Let's
$1
go.
million.
Graphic, punch it up!
All right, DraftKings is looking to mint a new millionaire in week 3 of the NFL season, no duh. So for a $20 entry fee, you can take part in the NFL 4.5 million fantasy football millionaire contest. Of course, that comes with a top prize of $1 million, but also a seat in our Tournament of Champions contest in January that, guess what? It's going to offer you another shot at $1 million. If you're counting, that's $2 million. Check out the contest in the DK lobby. Make sure that you enter that.
I can't even imagine what I would do with $2 million.
Aren't both the lotteries still?
Yeah, that's right. You could win like $500 million right now. We are rich in baseball analysts this morning. That's where we're going to start. We are going to get to the NFL Week 3 slate coming up. Here's our panel. Good morning. Matt Meiselman, DraftKings contributor, Gary and Thorne, Kenny Ducey. We're covering the bases, dude. This is when you share with us your favorite MLB plays. We're going to do DFS and sports betting. So first base here, favorite game total. Kenny, talk to me.
Yeah, this is not one that you'd really expect. You've got the Mariners going up against the left-handed pitcher. You've got the A's who've scored 4 runs in the last 2 games. So over 8.5 runs. Are you serious, Kenny? Yeah, I like it. Here's 2 pitchers who have terrible regression candidates. You've got Chris Flexen with an expected ERA, a full run above his real-life ERA. Same thing with Cole Irvin. The history with Cole Irvin, he's 0-3 this year against the Mariners. He has not allowed fewer than 3 earned runs in any of those starts. So for some reason, the Mariners can't hit lefties, but they really can hit Cole Irvin. And this A's team, I really think, is just destined to break out. I'll touch on it in a second, but a very low strikeout rate is going to be crucial against a low strikeout pitcher in Chris Flexen. I think that Chris Flexen's abilities to limit hard contact can be really tested in this one. I think the A's come out with a vengeance here. We saw them struggle against Tyler Anderson and then get to that Mariners bullpen. I think that this is finally a situation where they can attack a starter and get on top early and perhaps put up a lot of runs, and then the Mariners respond against Cole Irvin.
All right, what do you think, Gary? And favorite game total? Please share it with us.
Yeah, so this is a really interesting spot tonight, and it's a situation we talked a little bit about on the show yesterday, but you've got serious wind coming in Chicago, and wind probably plays a bigger factor to the total at Wrigley Field than anywhere else in baseball, and yet, despite I'm hearing 25 to 30 mile per hour gusts coming into left field, I still like the over. This was a depressed line yesterday because of the wind, and there were still 14 runs scored because at the end of the day, the Twins and Cubs just can't pitch. Maybe there won't be a bunch of home runs to left field, but there could be 20 hits between these two teams because, again, they cannot pitch. In fact, the Twins have hit the over in 58.3% of their games so far this season. That is by far the highest mark in baseball because they've still got a pretty good lineup, even if they can't pitch. Chicago, kind of a similar boat. They've been one of the best offensive teams in baseball since the start of August for whatever reason. These two teams across the last 14 days are actually both top 10 in baseball in isolated power. So there's the potential to score a lot of runs in this contest. Right now, the total is at 7. In Kyle Hendricks' last start, he allowed 7 earned runs by himself. This is someone who has an ERA over 9 in his past 7 games. So I understand why people could be hesitant. I understand why maybe this is a stay away spot because that's what the weather tells us to do. But I just don't trust either of these pitching staffs. So if I see a number like 7 attached to a Cubs-Twins game, I just have to take the over.
All right, Matty, bring us home here on first base.
Oh, man. So I'm glad that Garion went first because I thought at first he was going to steal the pick I was going with, but he's actually on the opposite side of it. That wind in Wrigley is wild. And I know yesterday I was the one saying I liked the under because the wind was blowing in. But that was Griffin Jax and Alec Mills. This is Kyle Hendricks, who isn't great, but he's better than Alec Mills. And Joe Ryan is a legitimately elite pitching prospect. So I know the Twins have bad pitching across the board, but he's the one guy on their staff who's actually potentially really good. This is also, like, we're looking at maybe 30 miles per hour of wind compared to yesterday where it was only 20. And this game, I don't really know what's going to happen. Maybe it's hard to have command of the strike zone because there's so much wind. Maybe they just cancel the game because the wind is too much of a factor. But for Hendricks specifically, like I think because he's a guy who lets the ball get put in play a lot, like the wind will just save him. He's not going to walk batters. They're not going to just be walking around the bases. Like that's the concern when you have a wind game where maybe the pitcher doesn't even utilize it because they don't throw the ball in the strike zone. With Kyle Hendricks, that's never really a problem. They're going to hit the ball in the air against him, and we basically have a backstop above all of the fences around the stadium. So I'm actually very excited to see how this game plays out, but I think the under here is a really strong play just because the wind is such a factor, like Garion said, at Wrigley Field. It's a totally unique circumstance to have this much of a wind effect. And then the last point on this is the temperature is much cooler than it's been for most of Hendricks' season. In the summer, when it's warmer, the ball flies out of Wrigley. This is not that circumstance. So I think that the situation is just a lot different than what it's been for either of these teams.
Matt, how would you evaluate Conor McGregor's ceremonial first pitch yesterday at Wrigley?
I'm so sorry.
It looked very windy. I mean, maybe that's what happened. I think the ball just flew over, and it's a tough night to pitch there.
That'd be right field wind, though. The wind was coming from the left.
We're trying to let him off.
I'm sorry. Are we on the Weather Channel here? What is happening?
Hey, why don't
What
you
is going
relax
on?
real quick, bro? This is trending on Twitter. You should want to talk about it.
I thought maybe he
I
was
know
using
about-
the wrong
I'm
hand.
okay with
It was
your
so bad.
assertion of Conor,
Yeah.
But why are we talking so much about the weather?
Because the weather's bad.
thing.
30-mile-an-hour wind sounds like it could really impact a baseball game. I'm sorry, Kenny. I don't know if you've ever been outside before in 30-mile-an-hour winds.
Let's move on to second
All right,
base.
Gary, and I'll just text you about Conor McGregor then.
Which is your favorite player prop? Garion, talk to us.
I think Ian Anderson's strikeout prop is really light tonight. And the fact it's at plus money, plus 120 for over 4.5 strikeouts, seems a little insane, honestly. I know he came off the IL, and somehow in his first 2 starts, he did not record a single strikeout. But Ian Anderson is someone who, for his career, an albeit brief career, is usually hovering around a 25, 26% strikeout rate. His last 2 starts, he struck out 16 opponents in 10 2/3 innings. It's a 34.8% strikeout rate. Arizona, to their part, over the last 2 weeks, has the 4th highest called plus swinging strike rate in baseball. They also have a top 10 strikeout rate in baseball, around 25%. I just think this is a huge overreaction to someone not being at 100% coming off the IL initially, but we're now talking about his 5th start since he came off the injured list. Ian Anderson's back to being Ian Anderson, and this number is way too low, so I will take the over here.
All right, Matt, what do we think? Player prop that stands out to you?
So there's a couple, but I think both pitchers at Coors Field have strikeout props that are a little too high. German Marquez, Walker Buehler, both guys that have been good this year, especially Buehler, who was actually the Cy Young favorite for a while. But Marquez is better on the road. He also obviously doesn't face the Dodgers every time out. And the Dodgers are a lineup that doesn't strike out a lot. It's just a really good offense in general. Buehler going into Coors, and I think generally we would say the Rockies are bad and pitchers against them are a good thing. And even at Coors, that is usually true, but they aren't a team that strikes out a ton. So even if the run expectation for them isn't very high, I don't think this is a great matchup in terms of strikeouts. So we have the props for Buehler and Marquez, I think at 6.5 and 5.5. 6.5 and 4.5. And I'd like the under for both those guys. I think that this could be a game that just doesn't have many strikeouts. The game last night between Urias and Sensatella, both guys went under their strikeout prop. So it's not that bold of a take to say Coors Field limits strikeouts, but I think the lines are a little too high there.
All right, Kenny, how about you? What's your favorite player prop?
Yeah, I'm going to go another low strikeout game. I think Chris Flexen goes under 3.5 strikeouts. There's been a little market agreement. I wrote this down at minus 120. It's now minus 125. The A's own a 17.2% strikeout rate over the last 2 weeks. That is the second best in baseball. Flexen ranks in the bottom 8% of the league in strikeout rate. And I know he has gone over this very low number in 5 of his last 6 outings. The last outing that he had, however, he did not go over this number. And I see Chris Flexen not lasting very long in this game. I really do think that the A's jump him early. This is a great spot against a team that's not striking out and a guy that doesn't strike many people out at all. I think that we should see plenty of batted balls and not a lot of swings and misses for Chris Flexen.
Let's go to third base. Let's go to the hot corner here. Favorite DFS pitcher? Maddie, start us off.
Well, I think we're going to have to talk about the wind just a little bit more. I mentioned Kyle Hendricks before. I mean, he he is my favorite play on the slate. And I think that Joe Ryan will probably be something like the second or even the most popular pitcher on this slate. It's probably Zack Wheeler, but Ryan gets up there. I don't think anyone's playing Kyle Hendricks because he's just not very good. He's not a guy who normally gets a lot of strikeouts, but I think the opportunity for him to stay in this game for several innings and like an inning or two longer than he normally would in a good start, I think that opportunity is just there because if he allows a lot of medium length fly balls in Wrigley, sometimes those wind up over the fence. Tonight, I think none of them wind up over the fence. And I think that he has a chance to put up one of his better games of the season if he can just throw the ball in the strike zone. Again, like this is a very quirky scenario in Wrigley with the wind blowing in to this extent. I don't think we've had a game like this, certainly not this season and probably not in a couple of years. So I think playing both pitchers in this Wrigley game makes sense, but Hendricks in particular, I think will be the more contrarian option. He's only 7,500, so he's my favorite play on the slate.
Kenny, what about you, weather dude?
I like Ian Anderson at $8,400. I'm with Gary in here. Arizona owns just a 292 WOBA over the last 2 weeks, and Anderson has been on a tear with 16 strikeouts over his last 2 starts. It's not pretty when you look at the earned runs and the home runs that he's allowed, and but look, he's lasting. We know he's got incredible talent. We know he's got incredible swing and miss upside. And the 16 strikeouts over the last 2 starts really give me a lot of encouragement that Ian Anderson can handle an Arizona team that looks absolutely dead in the water. I think that he gets the win here as a heavy favorite on the DraftKings Sportsbook, and I think that makes him a very good option at pitcher at just $8,400. I agree with Gary in here. I think that the projections are way too low on him.
All right, talk to me here, Garion.
So yeah, I do like Ian Anderson at 8,400, but since Kenny talked about him already, let's talk about Zack Wheeler for a second because I do think he's in an interesting spot tonight. He's going to be supremely popular. There's no question about that. He's the most expensive pitcher on this slate. He's been pitching really well lately. 1.02 ERA, 2.31 FIP across his last 3 starts, a 32% strikeout rate within that span of time. But it's also just the way the top end of this pitching kind of shakes out tonight, where it's hard to find anyone who can match the upside of Wheeler. Like, I think you can count the amount of guys who have the potential to score 30 DraftKings points on one hand tonight, and maybe even on one finger, and that one finger is Zack Wheeler, because Luis Garcia is simply not the archetype of pitcher that should be $10,000. You've got, as Matt mentioned, Walker Buehler going into Coors Field, where that not only affects the possibility for home runs and things of that nature, but it does limit his strikeout upside. And then Chris Sale, who really has been, I don't want to say babied since he's come off the IL, but he's not been a guy who's going to go out there and throw 110 pitches. If you get 5, maybe 6, if you cross your fingers, innings out of Chris Sale, that's probably the best case scenario here. And he's yet to crest 30 DraftKings points since he's come off the IL. So I do think Wheeler has to be viable just because he clearly has the most upside of any pitcher on tonight's slate.
All right, fellas, take us home. Which lineup is your early favorite to stack tonight on the DFS side? Kenny, start us off.
Yeah, look, it's the Giants against Vince Velasquez. I know it's the easy call, but this is a guy that if he weren't such a highly touted prospect way back when, this would be a name we retired like 4 years ago. He's just been that bad this year. The strikeouts have been bad. The home runs that he's allowed, the hard hit balls, and when you look at the way that this has gone for Vince Velasquez, and looking at a matchup against the Giants with some reasonably priced bats, Tommy La Stella at just $3,800 and 807 OPS in September. Wade Jr. pretty consistent. He's 4,600. So I like the Giants. I think there's a decent amount of options here to go to. Maybe the Red Sox too against.
Oh, no.
Oh, Lord. No, this is why.
I think we lost everyone.
Everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, this is why you do not steal your Wi-Fi from a next-door hospital, Kenny. We've told you this time and time again.
Let's go to Garion, yeah. Garion, you'll have to take over because
you pay for your internet
we lost.
like a normal person.
We've lost Kenny.
I mean, we now we know how to at least make Kenny stop talking.
Yeah.
Nice to have a fail-safe. I'm just going to go with the Astros. They're the hottest team in baseball. They're going up against a rookie pitcher in Jansen Junk. Junk only 2.1 career innings at AAA before getting the call-up. He now has like 8 innings in the majors, and he's got a 7.48 expected ERA, a 7.41 FIP. The nice thing about the Astros, I know Matt touched on this yesterday, is they're really kind of just rotating through their regulars and resting 1 to 2 guys a night. which still leaves you like 3 or 4 premium bats in this lineup who are, some of them, if you're talking about like Correa or Tucker or Bregman, are pretty moderately priced for where they usually are in 2021, but it allows guys like Aledmus Diaz, who's $3,000, Jose Siri, who's $2,100. Sometimes they sneak into premium lineup positions because the Astros are so willing to kind of coast to the finish line here. So they're a nice mix of high upside elite bats and really cheap younger bats in high leverage lineup positions. So I like the Astros a lot tonight.
All right, Matt, which lineup is your favorite to be stacking tonight on the DFS side?
So I think Arian's right about the Astros. The problem is I think they will be the chalk offense tonight. I think the Yankees will be right up there with them. To quickly finish Kenny's point, like I actually am interested in the Giants too, but after the couple guys he mentioned, Brandon Crawford's 5,900, Brandon Belt's 5,800. They're really expensive outside of a couple guys in their lineup. So I actually think the Dodgers will not be that popular, maybe only the 3rd or 4th highest on the offense, because there are teams like the Astros and the Yankees, maybe even the Braves, who are actually cheaper. And if you're going to pay up for guys that are around 6K, sure, the Giants are an appealing spot, but you have Mookie Betts, Trey Turner, Max Muncy, Justin Turner at Coors Field. It's Herman Marquez, so it's probably the best Rockies pitcher. But I think the Dodgers go a little bit overlooked because those prices are a little hard to get to. You're going to have a slate where everyone's trying to jam in Zack Wheeler, and as a result of that, I think you see way more lineups look towards some of these cheaper teams like the Houston Astros with some of their backups in the lineup. So stacking some of the high-end Dodgers, I think, will be hard for most people to do unless you want to play both pitchers at Wrigley. So that's kind of the route I'm looking to leave Zack Wheeler alone, not because I think he'll be bad, but so that I could play these expensive Dodgers that are otherwise hard to afford.
Great job to everybody on this panel, not named Kenny Ducey. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks.
We're going to, sorry. We're going to chase or fade some DFS stuff on the NFL slate right after the Unreasonable Odds pod talks Thursday night football. That's tomorrow night, Thursday night.
This Thursday night game, Carolina at Houston, if you wanted to bet this on Sunday morning, you got Carolina -4. If you want to bet it on Monday, you're getting Carolina -7.5. Now, like Johnny just told me there, the majority of that is Tyrod Taylor's injury, which he's likely not going to play. He said that accounted for the bulk of this 3.5 point swing. However, a 0.5 point to a point is based on Houston losing to Cleveland, although we all expected that, and more so Carolina blowing out a Saints team that everybody was high on. So here we are, just as we expected. Sam Darnold leaves the Jets. Now he's a road touchdown favorite. All you have to do is get away from the Jets, and here you are. I like this as a teaser leg. Week 3. I do. The Panthers are going to win this game.
I know. I hate the short weeks, putting them in teasers. That's the only qualm that I have in this one here. Other than that, nothing makes me think that the Panthers are going to lose this game.
To
You just need them to win. Because when you tease them down to 6, it's at 1.5. So excuse me, but
yep.
I get it. Like, this should be a great teaser piece. I was actually talking about this on Twitter between Panthers and Cardinals. Those were the one I was really deciding between. Ended up going with the Cardinals, get them down at -1. If you got it early, you basically got it down at a pick 'em. So you got to get those early lines. I think it's so important that we were talking about that too.
Welcome back to The Sweat. It's time to chase or fade some enticing NFL storylines for Week 3 with our DraftKings contributors, Pierce Dietrich and Reed Fowler.
Very cool. So chase, agree, or fade, disagree with the following questions. Here we go. Reed T. Fowler, you're a great guy. Chase or fade that Christian McCaffrey goes over his average from the last 2 games. 25 DK fantasy points tomorrow night.
I just like how Pierce says he just snickered at that, like it's not true, and he's absolutely right. Yeah, I'm gonna chase this. This is Christian McCaffrey against a Houston defense that's like they're not terrible, but they're not good, right? So they're not great. But CMC's he's totaled 59 touches in his first 2 games. That is usage that we thought maybe he'd try to ease back into it. No, the Carolina Panthers want to get this guy going quickly. They gave up a receiving touchdown, Houston did, to Demetric Felton in Cleveland. Who do you think that is compared to Christian McCaffrey, Pierce? Not like the delta is pretty far between Felton and McCaffrey. No offense to Felton, but McCaffrey's the best. I'm going to say he goes over this. I'm going to chase it.
All right, what do you think here, Pierce? Chasing or fading?
Reed's correct to hesitate to call us a terrible defense this early in the season, but I'm not going to hesitate. They've allowed the 8th most points to running backs, 9th most points to receiving running backs. Houston had a pretty porous rush defense last season. This should be an easy spot for McCaffrey to go over this number. 85 yards is over-under on rushing, 45 receiving, 5.5 receptions. I mean, you add all that up along with the high odds that he'll get a touchdown. And on an average day, he'll hit 25 points. The only concern here, the only scenario I can see where he doesn't hit this number is if Carolina comes out passing early, which I don't expect them to do with Darnold. They get up, and then they can just ease into the victory with Tyrod not playing. But most cases, if they get up early, it's going to be because of McCaffrey. And if they play for the entire game, McCaffrey's easily going to get tons of points.
All right, let's move on. Are you chasing Kyler Murray to be a top play again this week? Pierce, he's going up against a very weak Jags defense. Very soft matchup. He's the number 1 most expensive quarterback on the slate at 8,300. Seems like he's going to put it all together again this week.
I will fade it.
Oh!
A very weak Jacksonville team. But that's the problem. Jacksonville's just too weak. He's not going to need to run the ball. They're not going to need to keep the foot on the throttle the entire time, passing nonstop. He doesn't need to scramble. We don't need to see those heroic plays. And this is a really good place for the Cardinals to, A, get their running game going, B, not reveal their hand. Why show anything in this meaningless game? And then C, you got to keep Kyler healthy. This is a great place to just take it easy, get a 10-point win, and keep him healthy.
Reed, do you agree and think that this matchup is so soft that he's just not going to have to do much?
No one said it was so soft.
It's like soft serve ice cream. It's like just swimming in
like
nothing.
Soft as in Emerson College Emerson. Well, actually, College Emerson was pretty like.
Yeah, he was pretty thick, dude. He was pretty thick.
Yeah. But no, I like that was exactly my point that Pierce made, is that I don't think he's not going to have to run, right? The Jaguars defensive line, only 13 pressures on 40 dropbacks, guys, and only 3, I think only 3 pressures, 3 total pressures, like on the quarterback where they have to actually scramble. Kyler might not have to do that. These guys get off to an early lead, and you might see a very big dosage of James Conner late in this game and not Kyler Murray. I think that point that you don't want to show as much as you have to, I think is a great one, where this is a team now with the Cardinals that they need to stay healthy, because we know these key players on both sides of the ball, if they get hurt, this is a completely different team. Also, Emerson, I'm sorry, but the Jags secondary allowed 4 different members last week of their receiving core to allow over 30 yards in coverage. So we might see an AJ Green resurgence game. We might see D-Hop. I know all the love is on Rondale Moore, but we might see DeAndre Hopkins go for like 150 receiving yards this week.
Yep, agreed. I'm sticking to the point I made earlier that the Jags should be demoted to the SEC and Alabama should be promoted to the AFC South. I'm serious.
It's like relegation. It's like European football.
Indeed. Let's chase or fade this, dude. Reed, Cooper Kupp, OMG. He's been unbelievable in the first 2 weeks. He is in line for another top performance. What do you think?
Yeah, the hashtag breakfast model, taking something from Adam Levitan, where like these guys eat, the reports early in the preseason where these guys were eating breakfast together every single day, going over routes, going over tape, yada, yada, yada. But it's translated to Kupp getting 1,000 targets and catches, it seems, in the first 2 weeks. Look, Robert Woods isn't the squeaky wheel, gets the grease type of receiver like a Mike Evans, probably like a DK Metcalf, who we'll get to in a little bit. But I just imagine that against this Tampa Bay defense, and look, Chicago and Indy don't have terrible defensive lines. They're going to get to Stafford, right? Or they have been getting to Stafford. But Stafford's been amazing at getting the ball out on different platforms, throwing it sidearm. We see the vintage Stafford sidearm, getting it to Kupp. He's amazing in that regard. But I do think Robert Woods gets active in this game. I think if you're Tampa Bay, the liability is the secondary, and it is Cooper Kupp. You need to stop Kupp in this matchup. I think Robert Woods and Tyler Higbee have a bigger game, not necessarily bigger than Kupp, but I'm fading the fact that he's going to go off for another like 500-point game like he has in the first couple of weeks.
Yeah, what do you think here, Pierce? He's almost $2,000 less than the highest priced wide receiver too, who was Tyreek Hill.
I'm fading. Whenever the DFS community unites around a central theme, it's always worrisome. 10 days ago, no one cared about Cooper Kupp. I mean, he was a good receiver, but he wasn't, the greatest ever. But now we all universally agree that Cooper Kupp is just the greatest wide receiver ever. Doesn't that strike anyone as odd? And here's the thing, the DFS experts that are telling you, yeah, Cooper Kupp is great, they're the same people that 10 days ago didn't care about him. So if they were wrong 10 days ago, why can't they be wrong again? This team could easily go back to Woods or any of their other weapons. Or the defenses can decide, hey, it looks like they're going to Kupp a lot. Maybe we should focus on shutting this guy down. A lot of things can go wrong. Let the bandwagon fill up. I will gladly sit this one out.
All right, guys, let's move on to chasing or fading. Tyler Lockett will have another 100-yard receiving game. His connection with Russ has been very legit. So far, Lockett and DK Metcalf are tied for the team lead with 16 targets through 2 games. So do we think that's going to continue, Pierce?
I'll chase, and this is deja vu. Every single season we come on here and have to guess, is it going to be DK Metcalf or is it going to be Lockett? And it could be D. Eskridge this week if he plays. Who knows? It could be actually all of them, considering Minnesota has allowed the 3rd most points to receivers this season. But I like Lockett just because it still seems that DK Metcalf is drawing all the attention early in the season, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. He's got the most 20-plus yard receptions. He's got the most 40-plus yard receptions. I don't think you can go wrong with either of them. But, yeah, Lockett's going to keep it going.
All right, is he going to keep it going, Reed?
I mean, he is Seattle's Cooper Kupp, in my opinion. But like it's the same thing, right? How many people cared about Tyler Lockett 10 days ago, Pierce? Like it's the same narrative of, oh my God, now this guy is, the wide receiver one better than DK Metcalf. That's not going to be the case. Like DK Metcalf, he is the squeaky wheel type of guy. You saw him on the sideline when he wasn't getting his. Even though he had 11 targets, I would argue 4 of those weren't even catchable from Russ Wilson. So truly, if he's catching 6 of 7 targets and he sees Jeff Swain, whoever that guy is, and he's been actually a decent receiver for Seattle, get a 60-yard touchdown and DK doesn't have his, you better believe that this guy against Minnesota is going to go over 100 yards. We do this every single year for the last 2 years. How many times has Tyler Lockett put up a 40 or 50-point DraftKings points day with 130 receiving yards, and then the following week, it's 3 for 30? It happens every single time. I'm fading this. This is a fool's errand. I get the Tyler Lockett is great. He's doing the under the 2 deep safety thing where he's getting single coverage and he's beating his cornerback. But that's not going to happen for long. I'm going to fade it.
All right, guys, that's it for the segment. But if we want to roll the breaking news stinger, Tua has fractured ribs, according to Adam Schefter. He is out on Sunday. Jacoby Brissett will be starting for the Dolphins at Reed's Raiders. Also, now the Cam Newton speculation to Miami is just
fuel to the fire.
On the rise. Okay, here we go. Next up, we will talk some Ryder Cup. We're going to talk more NFL coming up to wrap up this show, but let's see what the Team Europe pairings might look like with Pat Mayo.
I want to see if Hovland's playing with Casey, because I know that Casey played with Hatton in France last time, but I think that Hovland Casey just makes a lot of sense.
It makes a ton of sense, but that's something to what the placement of Victor Hovland is essentially my European Bryson, but for totally different reasons. That being said, it's also totally different, Pat, because there's going to be about 4.5 guys on this European team, 5 guys that play the full go. Like, guys are going to be stapled to the pine here.
Okay, well, let's talk about who's not playing then. Westwood's not playing. Wiesberger's not playing.
Fitzpatrick might not play much at all.
Yeah, Fitzpatrick might not play much. It feels like those are the 3. Because Poulter's probably going to play with Rory, an alternate shot, because that's what they do. Not that they're good at it, but they do play together.
And there's a lot of talk out there that even like maybe that Lowry could ride Rory's momentum this week. He could be a good guy to piggyback in the prop market.
I looked at him
based on that.
I looked at him as top rookie. Because if he gets that first go with Rory and they win, you're probably going to see a lot of Lowry.
Yeah. If they go out early and win, that might not get broken up for a bit. Europe's not really about the country pairings. Like, it's not something like, again, they're so deep dived into the analytics that Rory would have to beg them to break up an analytical call to go to a friendship call, right?
The problem I have with Lowry is through the midsummer, from essentially like the Heritage through the PGA Championship to the US Open, he became like one of the premier drivers in the world, which was just crazy. He was gaining so many strokes off the tee, and that has completely flipped the past 2 months or so, where all of a sudden he can't drive it anymore, but the irons have come alive. Like, he has all of the parts of the game, and that's why he can win a WGC, he can win a race to Dubai, he can win an Open Championship, because seldomly will he put all 4 facets of his game together. It's usually 1 or 2 that really hold him back from really breaking through. But maybe in a format like this, he's kind of a guy that you want, because he's good at everything depending on the day, and can he catch lightning in a bottle? And you just have to send someone out with Rory who can at least let Rory feel comfortable, because Rory is really the key to Europe winning this, because you expect Rahm to play well, you expect Victor to go out and do it. Rory just seems like such a wild card right now, where he could be the best guy here, or he could just be bad.
Yeah, there are some scary stats in Rory's form coming into this event, but maybe this is the perfect thing to sort of flip them. It's the environment, it's the atmosphere, a team locker room. I'm not sure. One thing I'm pretty certain of, he's going 5 sessions. Victor's going 5 sessions. Rahm is going 5 sessions. There's a good case to make that they can't afford not to play Casey 5 sessions. That is it. But I think you're fair. I mean, Rory makes up the first wave of this team. You know, it's him, Victor, and Rory, right? Like, you would maybe Rahm draw like a dotted line after those 3.
Yeah, it's those 3, and then it's Casey, probably Hatton, weirdly enough, because if they play together.
You know, Fleetwood's been bad and Hatton's been bad. I don't know, that mid-tier, they're going to have to rise. And it's going to happen. We'll all be watching. I'll have my heavy piece on the Americans. Hatton is going to roll something in from 38 feet, and the Americans are going to miss the 9-footer for the half. Like, that's just, and I'm going to be like, oh my God, it's all happening again.
All right, welcome back to The Sweat, everybody. We've got our gorgeous golf gurus on your screen. Jeff Ulrich on the right, Reed T. Fowler, the happy hairy Hawaiian on the left. They are ready to lay down their top DFS plays for Das Ryder Cup. It starts on Friday. Hold on, just really quick. Jeff, you and I were connecting on Twitter about this late last night. How about the interaction between Bryson and Brooks? How much are we reading into this thing? Just pair them together, Stricker.
I don't think it's going to happen on the first day. But, let's just, forecast a little bit to the second day, maybe. U.S. needs a little bit of a spark, Who am I going to pair Bryson with? Brooks, maybe, just, is sitting on the bench. Never say never, Emerson. Let's just hope that, this works out, because this is something the world needs at this point. We need to see Brooks and Bryson out there together. There's absolutely no doubt about it.
Reed, putting them together, first match off the first tee Friday morning would break the entire state of Wisconsin.
It would also break them.
Yeah, my favorite is Jessie's reaction to all of this. Just like
she's like, let me ask my damn question.
No, I'm just thinking about how that will never happen, because neither of them would have.
I honestly think Team Europe would freak out. They wouldn't know what to do. That's so much beef. Those guys would destroy the world. Batman and Robin.
And each other. The
They
world
would be
and
like
each
Batman
other.
and Mr. Freeze.
You done?
Yes.
You're very excited. I appreciate that. Look, to Jeff's point, I think, yes, if they need a sparring, absolutely. But why not? If you're going to do it, why not send them out in the first match, right? Like, make a statement and send them out in the first match. If that's the exciting thing, just do it, right? Because both of these guys, and if they win in dominating fashion, then what else is going to put the Euro team on tilt? These guys have a connection, and they have a history You see what they're doing on their Twitter accounts. Everything is pointing towards the momentum staying with Europe. These guys live for this. This is their entire everyone lives for this, right? And you got a myriad of different countries on Team Europe who already know how this kind of competition works. Absolutely. So Stricker is not only looking at his pairings, and we'll talk about this later, so we don't take too much time on this, but absolutely, like this is if they're paired, I'd rather see it first, or like Jeff mentioned, if they need a spark, bring them back on day 2.
All right, so let's get into this. What's your general overall strategy for DFS Cup golf? Like, do you like stacking a pairing, stacking a whole team? Or are you building a balanced lineup from both teams, Jeff?
I don't think you need to necessarily stack a whole team. I think that going a little bit more of a balanced approach is the way to do it, because realistically, your main goal here should be to get guys who have the best shot at playing 4 or 5 matches, because the more matches, the more points, the more chances at wins. Now, you can definitely stack pairings. We obviously have to look a little bit ahead, but Patrick Cantlay, Xander Schauffele, Rory McIlroy, Victor Hovland, these are some of the guys. Justin Thomas, Jordan Spieth. Those are pairings you're almost likely going to see, and if they get off to good starts, you're probably going to see them through all the team competition, which is great. So stack those pairings. Don't necessarily have to stack the teams, because again, America could blow out, but Brooks Koepka might play like 3 matches. That's not really what you'd rather have a guy like Rory in there on the losing team playing 5 matches. So that's the strategy I'm looking at. Stack those pairings, not necessarily the teams.
All right, Reed, what's your take?
Yeah, same. And we'll get to the captain strategy in a little bit, but it's the same as if you're attacking a showdown for any other sport, right? Especially for football. If you want a team stack, you're going to be contrarian against the field, and that's going to give you a lot of leverage. So if you have a strong lean on, the U.S. team, thinking that they're just, from a talent perspective, that they can do it, then yeah, absolutely. And look, the whole narrative, even though the United States the American teams, they're very heavily favored in this one, it's still on Team Europe. Right? There's still value. There's still people out there saying that Team Europe is value. If you look at some individual bets, I like some of the individual bets. They're all coming and they're all landing on Team Europe. So I understand Jeff's point about making it balanced, but I don't mind a team stack, especially if you have a strong lean that Europe, like we just talked about, is going to take this one home.
All right. So talk to me a little bit more than about your strategy. Like, who's going to be your captain?
Yeah, I think there's 2 factions of thought, right? Or there's 2 different types of thought. Like, one is taking one of these rookies, like a Victor Hovland, right? Who's probably going to be in 4 to, like Jeff mentioned, 4 to 5 matches, and you can save a lot and get a lot of these top guys. Or I'm going to probably lean more towards this is the experience on this side. And Rory McIlroy is probably my favorite captain, just because he and Rahm are probably the 2 that I'm most confident in playing in all 5 matches. And I do think that if we see some of those practice round pairings guys, Rory was in that group with Hovland. So I could see a Rory Hovland, especially someone as experienced as Rory, stick with Hovland, the rookie. And even though both of those guys have a similar skill set, having both of their driving prowess on the same pairing will be fantastic. So if it's not one of these rookies like Hovland, I'm going to try and go with one of his potential partners in Rory.
All right, Jeff, your captain is who?
Yeah, no, it's kind of the same deal. I really like Rory McIlroy. I think Hovland you pair him with, but I think I'd rather captain Rory. You've got a better shot of getting the 5 matches. They could switch Hovland out if he just maybe ends up a little bit nervous off the start or something like that. I think that if you're creating a cash game lineup, I'd look to Xander Schauffele. Schauffele should be very, very chalky in the captain spot, though. So for GPPs, pay up for Rory, or maybe even pay down for a guy like Morikawa, who people seem to just be overlooking a bit, but he should play a ton too.
All right, guys, let's talk about who you're stacking with your captain. What do you think, Jeff?
I mean, look, we've already talked about this, but Rory and Victor Hovland are playing together off the top. So that is just a stack that fits so naturally if you're going to pay up for Rory. Now, if you're looking at other pairings, again, I think that as you go with the captains, you want to try and target someone. Like if you're targeting Justin Thomas, go with Jordan Spieth. Those 2 have played a ton together in international competition. They're almost certainly going to start the matches together. And you can even go down. I mean, I mentioned Schauffele and Cantlay. Regardless of who you captain there, you should be flexing the other one to stack them. So look at it as pairings. Start with your captain, and then try and read the tea leaves, who they're going to play with. Dustin Johnson, Colin Morikawa, another pairing you can probably target.
All right, read those tea leaves.
All those things that I completely agree. We talked about Victor Hovland, but here's one guy, guys, Paul Casey. Like Paul Casey is someone that I think we were taking, for granted as an industry that we're not talking enough about. Guy has a 14-9 and 4 lifetime team record. He's been on I think 4 or 5 Ryder Cups already. And this guy's ball striking has been elite. He ranks 2nd in approach and 10th off the tee, I think, over those last 24 rounds. And when you get him on die courses, I think he's also been pretty dang good as well. He's had a great season so far, and he's someone too that in these type of matchups, right? We talk about bulldog, talk about you got to have the grit, right? Like in match play, he's got that, but it's a little bit subdued, right? It's a subdued, and he's got the disposition of this entire competition, right? He's like the Ian Poulter is like the aggressive one, is the boisterous one. Paul Casey is that quiet tiger that you want to see, and when he plays well, you can see the energy that he has in this matchup, and he's only coming in at $6,800 as a flex price, and so I really like that.
Yeah, it's your turn, Emerson.
Okay, cool. All right, last one, quick one here. Anyone under $7,000 in play if you're looking for value, Reed?
Yeah, so I mentioned Paul Casey. I honestly think no one's talking about Daniel Berger either. Like Berger is someone too that, like, if he's paired with someone that is sort of like a DJ, maybe even a Bryson, right? I could see Bryson going with him if it's not a Scotty Scheffler. He's someone that could fit in any type of matchup, right? We see him play well in these short par 70 type of courses, but he's really good around the greens. He's a solid putter, and this is a guy too that has been around the top 10, top 15 in overall world golf ranking for a while. And so I do like Berger if I'm not going overweight in Casey.
How about you, Jeff?
I definitely like going to the Euros under 7K. I mean, Paul Casey to me, Reed already mentioned it. I definitely feel like even as a captain's pick, like you can think about him. But I also, I mean, he played a lot with Tyrell Hatton. The two, won a match. They almost beat Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth the last Ryder Cup. They went 1-1, but they've played together in other competitions too. If you're going to use Casey, using Hatton with him makes a ton of sense. These pairings could play all 4 matches if they get hot off the start. And then you have 2 guys playing 5 matches. So love that pairing. I like Hatton as a sneaky play there too. I think the American guys, yeah, they're talented, but there's a lot more chance some of these guys are only going to play 3 matches because they're so deep. So like going to Europe for the value.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate the time. As always, Jeff, stick around. You're going to join us next with our NFL panel. But, guys, is 2 weeks in too soon for full power rankings? Obviously not. Of course not. Ross Tucker gives us a few teams in his top 10 that have surprised him so far this season.
Right, next up, number 10, the Arizona Cardinals.
So I didn't move them one way or the other. Kyler Murray is electric. I thought the defense took a step back, and they've got some issues on the back end, man. I mean, the Vikings tore them up pretty good, I thought, which is one reason why Cardinals are going to have to battle all year. That gives them a much better chance, by the way, to go ahead and actually make the playoffs now that they got that win over the Vikings. That was critical.
Number 9, the 49ers.
So the 49ers were not great for a lot of that game against the Eagles, but I'm impressed with their defense. They bent, they gave up some big plays, but they stiffened. They only gave 11 points to the Eagles. They stiffened in the red zone on the road. They got a bunch of running back injuries. I mean, literally, they already had the injury to Mostert, and then this last game, Jermichael Hasty, Trey Sermon, Elijah Mitchell, they all got hurt. So now they're really, scrapping, bringing in every guy that you can think of to work out because they need bodies.
Number 8, the Denver Broncos.
Very impressive start for the Broncos. Very impressive start for Teddy Bridgewater. I think I saw a stat where nobody has thrown the ball downfield more than Teddy so far, which is not his MO.
Number 7, the Baltimore Ravens.
Gigantic win, clearly, over the Chiefs Sunday night. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that RTFP post-game from the Ravens broadcast booth. They still have some issues. The health is catching up to them a little bit, and their defense has not been as dominant as I thought they would be.
but that's still a good football team there.
Number 6, the Las Vegas Raiders.
Moved them up quite a bit, Bri. I thought, okay, they won in overtime against the Ravens. The Ravens came with some zero blitzes, and the Raiders, dropped some bombs in there and won the game. No. Now, after a Monday night win, you go to Pittsburgh and you win somewhat convincingly in Pittsburgh against the Steelers. Now I'm bought in on the Raiders as a top 10 team. At least for right now. They have earned it with those 2 big wins over AFC North good teams.
Number 5, the Buffalo Bills.
Moving them back up, Bri. They are who we thought they were. How does it go? Hey, hey, Bills make you want to shout. Raise your hands up and shout. Scream your lungs out and shout. Na, 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 and shout. Hey, 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 hey. Bills looking good.
Number 4, the Rams.
Boy, I just realized on youtube.com/Ross.NFL, I probably look real awkward there. Rams, nice 2-0 start to the season. Pretty convincing wins both times. They let the Colts come back, but then they put the foot back on the gas pedal. Rams have a good team.
Number 3, the Browns.
But the Browns have a loss, Ross. And there's 2-0 teams you have them ahead of. Don't care. Browns are good. Both sides of the ball. And they're going to be in this thing all year.
All right, final block of the show, folks. I'm Jesse. He's Emerson. They're DraftKings contributors Jeff Ulrich and RotoWire's AJ Scholes. And we're ready to get your takes on which games and player totals are going over their projected numbers and which ones are going to be going under.
All right, we are going to start with Thursday Night Football. So we have Carolina and Houston. The over-under there, 43. It's a low one. No Tyrod Taylor for the Texans. Jeff, what do you think? Over or under that, babe?
Yeah, I mean, this may look like a bit of a small total, but I'm definitely leaning under here. Look, just the number's already coming down a bit. He was 43.5 2 seconds ago. Now it's 43. You look at Carolina, too. People think, oh, well, it's fast-paced under Matt Rule. They don't really have a good defense. This team is now 7-11 at hitting overs, so they have a losing record to the overs. They're 11-7. I guess we could say that hitting the unders since Matt Rule took over at the beginning of last season. This team likes to run the ball a little bit. It likes to play at a bit of a slower pace. And now they have an opponent in Davis Mills that's going to let them play at as slow as pace as they want because they're probably not going to be moving the ball much. Even if Carolina comes out and scores 28, 30 points here, are the Texans really going to be in that good a spot to score more than a couple field goals? Probably not. I really like the under in this one.
All right, AJ, what are the chances you like the over here, bud?
Not good. Not good at all. I'll definitely be with Jeff on the under here. Look, to kind of back up some of what he said here. Yes, the Panthers defense has been a little bit maligned, but they've actually been pretty good against the pass here. They've given up the fewest passing yards in the league at just 287. So between having a third-string quarterback, going up against a defense that is actually doing okay against the pass here, I think we're going to see 2 teams that are running the ball, going slow here, and I just don't see where the offense is going to come from. Tyrod Taylor has almost single-handedly provided the offense through the first 2 games, whether through the air or even on the ground himself. So there's not anything in this that makes me say they can hit the over.
All right, how about the Vikings Seahawks total? This is sitting at 55.5. Now, this point total opened at 48. So, AJ, it's already gone way up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's still appropriate. I'm going to take the over on this one. I don't want to harp on pass defenses too much here, but the Vikings have been really bad. They've allowed 588 yards with 5 TDs, and perhaps most concerning, a league-high 77.8% completion rate against through the first 2 games of the season. This game is absolutely set up for Russell Wilson to feast on the opposition, rack up some points. You add in on the other side of the ball, the Seahawks have the second worst rush defense in terms of yards allowed, and they've got to face Dalvin Cook here. And I just think this is a situation where we're going to see both strengths of each side of this offense just kind of dominating and a lot of points coming. So I'm not surprised it's moved that much. And I'll still take the over here.
All right, Jeff, do you still want to take the over?
Yeah, man. I mean, look, first of all, I'm the overs guy, Jesse, so let's get back on the overs. I took my one under for the month in that last game. But look, Minnesota under Mike Zimmer, their secondary has been terrible for a while now. Last year, 11-5 at hitting overs. They are 7-1 to the overs in Minnesota games played in Minnesota over the last year. They're already 2-0 to the overs this season. This team is not good in the secondary. Patrick Peterson is not helping anything. They're 5th last in terms of yards per attempt allowed against already this season. Russell Wilson is going to slice and dice here. And look, Kirk Cousins at home has actually been pretty good. The Seattle secondary, we know it's beatable. And they got Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen this week. This one is still a couple points too low. Early season, guys, you got to side with the offenses. We're still in week 3 here, just like last year. This one's still too low. I know it's come up from 48, but this should be a couple points higher. Give me the over here.
Let's go with another total that is tied for the highest on the slate, 55.5. Bucks Rams. This one opened at 54.5. Already up a point there. So, Jeff, what do you think? Over or under? Bucks on the road out west, man.
Look, it's Wednesday. It's hump day. We're going over here. And look, all these overs I took last week, like 4 to 5 of them hit, by the way. So the only one that did was Dallas Chargers. But this one, look, the Rams are a different team. They're already 2-0 to the over this season. So with Matthew Stafford, they're hitting their passes. They're so much more efficient in the passing game. Cooper Kupp just making a mockery of opposing secondaries. They haven't even gotten Robert Woods involved. Now they're taking on Tampa Bay, a team that opponents against Tampa Bay have averaged 53 pass attempts against so far. I won't even talk about how good Tom Brady is playing because everybody talks about that. Yeah, it's the Rams defense, but guess what? This one is going to be a fast-paced game. Matthew Stafford's going to put up points, and it's just going to force Tampa to throw all game. I think this one is still too low, too. You got to side with the offenses early in the season. Give me the over.
AJ, Rams averaging north of 30 points a game. Bucks have averaged close to 40. Like, both are a threat to score in bunches, and clearly the betting odds show that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you can get this game as like the highest total, that's a bet worth looking at too, because as Jeff said, the Buccaneers have scored a league high 79 points to start the year. And Tom Brady looks like the guy that won the MVP back in 2017. I don't see anybody stopping him right now. I know that Rams group has only allowed 1 passing TD to kick off the season, but this is just 2 offenses that are just firing on all cylinders. You've got the Bucs that are going to give up the points. They've been comfortable winning in shootouts. At the start of the year, we thought, maybe they'll ease into it. They'll play some quality defense and just have Tom do enough. But they've needed Brady to rack up a ton of points. I don't see that changing this week either. Over is the way to go.
Yeah, okay. Speaking of that, a weekly special on the DK Sportsbook from that same game. Brady and Stafford combined passing yards over 599.5. AJ, do you like that? You just said Brady's going to have to be scoring points, throwing TDs. How do you like it?
Well, here's the thing. My initial reaction was no way, but you look at the Stafford numbers. He was 1 yard shy of averaging 300 per game. Brady has been through the roof at 655 through 2 games. But still, even with all that, there's just not enough value for me to take this one. It's coming at plus 105. You need both guys to essentially throw for 300 yards apiece. I mean, if the value was more, I do think this will happen. If you're asking me just straight up, will it happen? Yeah, probably, but I don't like 105 as a value for any sort of risk that an injury pops up or any other sort of variance here. I'd rather honestly take a shot at Derek Carr to go over 349.5 versus the Dolphins this week. You get plus 350 on that one. You're only relying on 1 player instead of 2. It really just comes down to the value for me on this one, and it's not there.
All right, Jeff, under a minute. What do we think?
No, I do like this one. You can't run the ball against Tampa. This team is allowing 3 yards per carry. They've allowed 57 yards rushing per game. Matthew Stafford is going to come out throwing, and he's going to get that. I'm actually more worried about the Brady side of the ball, but look, it's Bruce Arians. Even if they're having success with the run, they're going to throw the ball. So I actually like this one. I think that plus money, I would take the over here. I think this is actually decent value, so I'm more on it than AJ.
Guys, that is it. That is a show for us on this Wednesday. Appreciate your help. We got a 6-game Madden slate here kicking off on the Dream Stream at high noon with the Patriots at the Lions. But the most important information I can share with you now is you need to join Reed T. Fowler, Jeff Ulrich, and yours truly, 5 o'clock for a Wednesday edition of the Slate. We got a lot of Ryder Cup on the menu, also some Thursday night football picks. We'll look ahead to the Sunday slate as well. So it's literally must-see television.
All right, that's the show.
Yeah,
Bye.
we're out of here.